Exports of goods and services as a share of GDP showed a marginal improvement to 21.5% in 2021 to 2022, from 18.8% the previous year, but trailed an average ratio of 24.6% between 2011 to 2012 and 2014 to 2015. A stellar rise in India's exports may have helped the pandemic-battered economy look up recently, but it is barely enough to suggest a turnaround for the long run. Exports as a share of GDP are still not high enough, and with the tides of the global economy now turning for the worse, further growth has become more challenging. Let's investigate what factors could prevent India's exports from surviving the current global recession. Indian exports are highly sensitive to global growth shocks, analysts at CRISIL had said in a report in December 2021. This already seems to be playing out. In July, export growth was the slowest since February 2021, having grown 47% in between. The high growth had been driven by the global pent-up demand and base effect. While India touted the $400 billion worth of merchandise exports in 2021 to 2022 as a milestone, relative to GDP, the figure was behind the trend seen before 2014 to 2015. Even the targeted $1 trillion in exports by 2030 will not be much of an improvement, assuming that the economy would have grown to $5 trillion by then. Not only will India have to show resilience amid a global slowdown, but it will also have to make an effort to diversify its exports basket, experts said. India's exports basket is dominated by engineering goods, 25%, petroleum products, 16%, and labor-intensive industries such as leather, textiles, and gems and jewelry, 32%. The first two are capital-intensive, but the real push to growth comes from the labor-intensive sectors, which create more jobs. However, their share in India's exports has been on a decline, which could take a toll on jobs-led growth. The growth in exports of labor-intensive items has been lagging overall exports growth, according to a Mint analysis. The rise in labor-intensive items was only 36% against a growth of 45% in overall exports in 2021 to 2022. The labor-intensive industry has consistently fallen behind after 2016 to 2017, which economists say is because of the hardship faced by the industry following demonetization, the implementation of the goods and services tax, and lockdowns aimed at containing the spread of COVID-19. The GDP of the US has contracted for 2 consecutive quarters, sparking a debate whether the country has already slipped into a recession. This could be bad news for India, which relies heavily on the world's biggest economy for exports. Not only is the US India's top export destination, it is also way ahead of other countries such as China and the UAE. We believe the export downturn has already started and will accelerate in the second half of 2022, said Nomura in a report on 3 August. India's exports growth is likely to be hurt in the coming months, with a recession also likely in the Euro area, the UK, Australia, and Canada, among others, the report said. The persistent supply chain issues, shortage of raw materials, and high inflation are also headwinds for exports, as efforts to push free trade agreements are yet to show results. In 2021, India ranked 18th globally on outbound shipments, its best standing in several years, shows World Trade Organization data. This, however, is only a marginal improvement, with India always ranking 19 or 20 over the last decade. India could very well have been in the top 15 if its exports were higher by at least $50 to $60 billion. However, global headwinds, smaller countries exhibiting faster exports growth, and the slowing trend in India are major challenges. India took around 5 to 6 years to jump from $100 billion to $200 billion in exports and from $200 billion to $300 billion. However, adding another $100 billion took nearly a decade. At the current pace, India risks losing out to Spain, Switzerland, and Australia, among others, and will need a policy shift away from subsidy-based promotion of exports and towards faster adoption of the environmental, social, and governance (ESG) regulations.